So, few quick reminders. This week is the final week. Please make sure you're checking your emails. I put out important emails every single day regarding probably most of the questions that you may have. So, just by checking your emails, you can probably get most of your questions answered. Um, I'll finish up grading for last week. Today, I got through most classes, but one class I'm still working through. Um, Please make sure you are diligent about turning in your work. Wednesday is the final day to turn in any outstanding work for weeks 3 and week 4. Just a quick reminder too that your homework assignment is what I'm referring to. Please note that participation assignments, most of you guys know this, but those are not homework assignments. Those are for attendance assignments. They are worth points, but you don't make up attendance assignments. But for all your other homework assignments, you can. So please make sure you do that. Check your grades, guys. Um, I don't know what's happening. I guess just not paying attention. A few people like you're putting things in the wrong spot, and you know, you got to make sure you put everything where it's supposed to go, because I could grade one thing and then I go somewhere else and it's there and I've already graded that. Like, I'm not going back and trying to find your grades and find your assignments. So make sure you're putting your assignments where they're supposed to go. If you have an assignment and you didn't get a grade for it, then repost it. I'll see it, but do not just post assignments anywhere, because you're going to get a 0 on that assignment if you're posting the wrong assignment. So, but I did put notes if you've done that. So just make sure you're watching that. All right. This week will close this Thursday. What is wrong with me? This Thursday at 10 p.m. This Thursday at 10 p.m. I apologize for those of you that already know this. Every month I get someone to say, I didn't know. So I got to say it for the people in the back. And I have to say, I said it in the video. This Thursday class ends. Of course, I'll send out emails, but who reads those? This Thursday at 10 p.m. class ends. All right, very good. So let's get into it. We're in chapter 13. Today we're in chapter 13, and chapter 13 is pretty quick. It's just talking about your first day on the job, and we all know how nerve-wracking that can be. You're doing something for the first time. Yes, we've been in school, we've got our A's, our teacher has told us great job, but now you're out in the real world and you have to physically do the job. A lot of people get really nervous and they think that maybe what they think they know, they don't know, or they're not as good as they think they are because, everybody else has been doing it so much longer than me. And you're probably just fine. You're probably just fine. You're probably more than fine, right? We call that imposter syndrome. You'll even hear a lot of people that, win awards or make it big. You'd be surprised how internally they feel like, did I earn this? Did I deserve this? Like, yes, you did. Yes, and yes, you earned it and you deserve it. So, my friends, when you get out there, and just because you're the first person on the job, that doesn't mean that you know any less than anybody else. Embrace it. Know that's how everybody is feeling. That's when everyone's felt that way at some point, and that's really just the fear of the unknown. Like, we all are nervous about things that we don't know how it's going to go. So it's pretty natural, right? So just know that. So the other things that chapter 13 will talk about is um all the different paperwork that you'll have to do when you're on the job. And the reason why they bring that up, because let's just face it, your first day on the job, like any job, you're going to be super duper excited. This is a career. This is not just, anything, right? And then it's going to be the first week, sometimes the first day, sometimes the first 2 weeks, a total deflation because you're going to sit and have to do a bunch of paperwork, right? Especially if you go to a corporate office, you're going to be in training, you're going to be in all these sessions. Um, I've had a few companies do me really dirty where has anybody had to work for a company and they put you in like all day trainings? I had one company. Oh my, isn't it brutal? It's brutal. Brutal. Why would you do that to people? This one company, we we trained for like 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Oh my God, it was brutal. Yeah, and then they made us do um like computer training, which was like 3 hours. And then you had to go to all these different training sessions. I stayed at the company 6 months. I didn't leave because of the training. I left for other reasons. I left because they told me the job was supposed to be like yeah, actually it was supposed to be a work from home job. Yeah, I know how people feel about that. But in my line of work, I was a writer at the time. So I'm like, I can work from home. What are we doing? And then they switched it to hybrid, and then they switched it to in the office. So it was like in a matter of 3 months. So, I'm like, okay, here are your keys, and where do I drop off this laptop? But yeah, I went through 6 months just to quit. It was brutal. Um, when you go to a job in HR, they'll always tell you, if you remember, please bring two forms of ID, especially your social, your birth certificate, your driver's license. Why is that? Federal law stipulates that within 3 days, companies have 3 days to report that they have a new employee, or they get fined. That's why they do it. So please make sure that you bring all your supporting documentation, because you have to do those I-9 forms, which is the federal form, obviously your W-4 form, and your any benefits forms that you may have to do. But that's why they tell you that, and that's why they get on you a little bit about it, because they have 3 days to let the IRS know that they have a new employee. Um, Obviously, please be on time. Do not be late. I don't know well, I do know what it is. We talk about this all the time. First impression is a lasting impression. We are human creatures. I don't remember a lot about a lot, but for some reason, I always remember the people that showed up late. Anybody else? In the same brutal 2 week training we had, I'll never forget the young lady that showed up late. And it was not just because she showed up late, it was she made a big scene about it, and she went on and on and on about it. I was like, dude, you're making it worse. Right? Maybe that's what it is. Like, why does that stand out for me? I've been in the business since I was 19 years old. I've been working, but that stands out. I remember people that just go, do crazy stuff, and they're late. Like, you don't want to be late. You don't want that to be what people remember about you, right? Be nice, greet everyone, be enthusiastic, my friends. Like, don't be the frowner, don't be and I know we don't all do it on purpose. Some people, they don't want to say it out loud, but they're nervous, they're afraid, they're apprehensive, and so sometimes it shows on your face, right? We don't mean to show those emotions, but they show on your face. You may think you're just concentrating, that you're just there to figure out what's going on, but then it reads as scared. I'm gonna tell you something a man taught me back in the day when I was a young girl. I was getting fresh out of the military, and I went to the nightclub, and I was sitting towards, the drinks area, and I had my arms folded. Right now, I'm not thinking anything of it. And this man came up to me, and he just says, "Unfold your arms." You look insecure. That stood out to me. This was almost 30 years ago. Why did that stand out to me? That was not my intention. But if you thought about it, that's when you cross your arms, it is a defense mechanism. It is a don't talk to me. I'm trying to put boundaries in between myself and somebody else. I didn't know it at the time. And that stood out to me. Was that the look I was going for? No. I was at the club. I was trying to enjoy myself. But that's how it reads. So you never know how your body language is expressing, maybe some subconscious thoughts that you may have, but you don't want people to know it. That's why they're subconscious, right? So wear a smile, be pleasant, do eye contact. It takes 2 seconds. And guys, I'm not talking about all day. I'm not saying walk around looking crazy. I'm just saying when you initially greet Smile, be friendly, and people will forget. That's the great thing about it. If you're an introvert like me, you want people to not pay attention to you, right? So if you're friendly, people forget. People will remember the ones that aren't friendly, right? Those are the ones that stick out to us, right? So have a positive attitude, be enthusiastic. You don't want to be the person that now people feel like they have to put a wall up, because guess what happens? When you do that, then you're telling the other people, oh, I need to be fearful of that person. I need to be cautious of that person. And now you ever notice how the energy may shift with a person when they're interacting with you? Maybe it's because they read you wrong. I had a dear friend of mine I felt so bad for when we were teaching together. And I sort of remember it, but I didn't remember it. We were in training, right? Another training. And I stepped out to take a phone call. And so we were all new. And so she and I, we had our classes were next to each other. And so I was on the phone. I don't think she saw that I was on the phone, but she came by and she was saying hi to me. But I must have, not, I must have, was a bit dismissive of something of her, but I wasn't really sure what it was. So long story short, time goes on, her son's in my class, right? Because at this time I was teaching middle school. And this lady would not talk to me. She was very, standoffish with me. And I'm like, I got your son in my class. What's up? And so, we went on to befriend each other. And then she told me, she was like, you were so rude to me when I first met you. I was aghast. I was aghast. And I was like, oh no, this is what happened. I was on the phone. And so you never know. She was like, I'm not talking to her again. And so every time I tried to talk to her, I tried to engage with her, she was standoffish. I felt the energy, but I had no idea what it was about. You see? So we're humans creatures, and I was like, oh my goodness, lady. But then at the same time, I totally understood it, right? So you just don't want any of that drama. You don't want to bother, hurting your work relationships. Guys, this is why I love working from home. So I feel sorry for you guys that have to know. Some people love working with other people, but you have to just understand emotionals and have emotional intelligence. And we'll be talking about emotional intelligence tomorrow. But now, for those of us that are remote, some of you guys obviously won't be remote. However, don't you still may be working remotely. Who has a job right now? Give me a thumbs up if you already have your job. Go ahead and brag a little bit. Okay, look at them. Look, okay, making money. Okay, take us to lunch since you got all that money. Now, let me ask you, who has to travel for their job? Like who has to maybe go, I don't know, go see clients, go to different projects. Who has to travel? Anybody has to travel? And when I say travel, I mean like you're working not like going out of town, but maybe you have to go to different clients or customers. Anybody doing that? Okay. Well, the reason why I bring it up is you could be considered remote as well. So sometimes if you have a job where there is no physical office, you have to go see customers, you have to go see clients, or maybe you just have to go to a project site. You may have to work from home. They may give you some type of device where you still have to log in and go to meetings and do things like that. So just know that if that happens to be you, maybe those of you that don't have a job yet, you may go into a job like that. You want to make sure that you really establish, a good workspace at your home, guys. Make sure the routine is on. Don't be that person that never logs in on time, doesn't do it right, has technical issues. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you how that reads. And I'll be honest with you, even in school, it reads irresponsible. I don't care what your excuse is. It reads, I'm irresponsible. That's how the person is going to see you. In all actuality, if we're being honest, right? Unless it's hey, I just couldn't, people have financial concerns too. That's a whole other thing. But if you do not have any financial concerns that would hinder you from doing something, it reads irresponsible. So you have to change your mindset. Now, don't be the person that has to be trained. You don't want that. You don't want that, right? You want to be the person that goes into a professional job being professional. Because if you don't, you're going to learn the hard way. People will judge you. You will lose opportunities. They will pass you over, all for simple things like they don't consider you professional. Oh, why is Tommy always getting the job? They consider him professional. Hmm? Why is Sarah always getting promoted? Because Sarah's on time. You may even be the better, you may do the job better, but Sarah's reliable. This is business. So if you have those habits, you know who you are, stop it now. You have to have discipline. And I say that as I sit here and eat a piece of bread, and I know I got to go to the gym afterwards. But that's what I got to go to the gym. I already made up in my mind. If I won't eat the bread, I got to go to the gym. You got to have discipline. Yes? Have it now. You don't want to learn, my friends, you don't want to learn the hard way. I'm telling you. Crystal, you have your hand up? Not sure.
Yes, in regards to that, there is also being too reliable, that you're too good at your job to promote.
Well, yeah, well, see that now, see, Crystal, now see, this is so good. I'm glad you brought that up. This is why we have to have our long-term goals. Because guess what? If Crystal, if you're working for me and I have a smaller company and I need you in that position and I don't want to promote you, and you've already said, I got 2 years here and then I'm going back to school. What are you going to do within 2 years? You're going to go back to school. It doesn't matter how I treat you. See, your goal has to be your true north, right? What happens is we get into positions, we get into companies, and then we start believing the dream that they tell you. But do you really think I'm here to help you with your dreams? I am not. No company is. If you, this is why, and I'm glad you said that because a lot of times people don't look at goal setting like it's a big thing. But if I got a goal, I came to this job, I know I'm going to be here for 2 years. I don't care what happens to the job after 2 years because I'm going back to school. Or guess what? I've decided that I want to get a supervisor job within 2 years. What do you think is going to happen, Crystal, if you don't give me that supervisor job within 2 years? I'm going to be looking for another job. I love you. I love you, Mary Beth, but I got to go. And that's how you have to look at it. Don't take it. The only thing you need to take personal is your business. You have to look at yourself like a business entity. Is there any job that was any business that would sit and just not make money and just sit there and not make money? What business you know that would do that? What would businesses start to do if they weren't making money? Somebody tell me. What would a business do if it wasn't making money?
Well, they would look at their productivity, and whoever's not producing like they should, they would probably reconsider letting them go.
Yeah, they're going to start cutting because guess what? You in a business, you have income and expenses. And a person is an expense. If I'm not making money, that means I need to get rid of some of my expenses. I need to reorganize myself because what I'm not going to do in business is not sit and make money. That doesn't make sense, right? So if you start to look at yourself like a business, does it make money if you're not, does it make sense if you're not making money? Oh, but I love this job. We have a softball team. What? Huh? That's not that's not how we do it, my friends. If you have a career, you have to think like a business. You are a business entity. Don't do things that don't make sense for you. If it doesn't make sense, if it's not making you money, it's not making sense. Or if you just want to volunteer your time, I mean, you don't need to go to school and waste all your energy for that, right? Go volunteer somewhere. But if you're a business, it has to make sense, right? All right. So let me talk also about a little bit more about this training thing because in this training is where you're going to get your contract. Now you're going to get your offer letter, which is now watch this. And see, this is so funny because companies do this backwards. They give you an offer letter and you sign it. You know that's a contract, right? Because that offer letter says, I agree to do these services for this amount of money. But watch this. When you get to
Yeah, and then they
training,
add
what's something, huh?
then they add the and some other few stuff. They got you doing two jobs at the same time.
Oh, that's something else too. But yeah, because watch this. It's so funny you say that. Okay, so let's back up a little bit. A lot of times you'll get a job description, won't you? Sometimes you get a job description before you even get the job. Sometimes they post it online, but a lot of times what they'll do is they're so slick. They'll give you an offer letter and they'll send you the job description with it. Read the job description because at the bottom is always going to have what he just said, other duties as assigned. That's how they get you. They always say, oh, but it says other duties as assigned and you signed the contract. So that's how they get you on that. But watch this, they get you a third way. Once you come on, what is something that they give you and they always tell you to sign it? See if y'all pay attention. Anybody? There's something they give you. It's a it's a book. What kind of book do they give you?
The employee manual.
That's right. They give you an employee handbook. And you ever wonder why they make you sign it? It's part of your contract. In that employee handbook, it gives them it tell you every reason they can fire you, all the codes of conducts and the employee behavior, all that's in there. How many of us read it? I guarantee you, if you are fired, they have to fire you according to something in the book. That's why if you ever gotten terminated, it'll say per pursuant section blah 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 blah. This is why we're letting you go because you're under contract. You have to look at yourself like a business. Don't let them be the smartest people in the room, my friends. Read the manual. Know what you're signing. A lot of times they'll say, oh, just, this is yours. Just to go ahead. And this is what these lazy HR people do. They'll give you the handbook and then they'll just say, tear it out the back and sign it. And then give me this saying you read it, but you can just take it home and read it because they're just trying to check boxes and get you out of there. Now, I'm not saying don't do it. I mean, technically, you can say, no, I like to read this first before I sign it. But you know what I'm saying? Whatever. We don't want to stand out. Make sure you read it because that is what they can fire you for. That is what they have grounds to fire you for. Everything else, guess what? I see in court. This is a contract, my friends. Companies cannot. I know they say that in the state of Florida and some states, what they have is free at will. So that means they can fire you with or without cause. That's not true. There's always exceptions to that, right? There's always exceptions. So the employee handbook tells you certain things, okay, well, this is definitely reasons we can fire you. Those are all for cause. But if they just let you go without cause, there are certain things that they can't let you go for. One of them is discrimination, harassment. You can't go to the boss and say, oh, Sarah's, stealing my lunch every day. And now she's at my car every time I go and I'm uncomfortable. And they say, okay, we're going to have to let you go because you're afraid of Sarah. No, then I'll see you in court, right? So people can't just let you go for anything. There are certain rules and laws they still have to abide by. So it's important when you go to this employee training, and I'm gonna tell you something else too. A lot of times, this is the most time that you're ever gonna get with HR. Spend that time wisely. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, make sure you reach out to them. Make sure you get it during this new employee training. I know a lot of us, we just get so nervous. We just want to get started. So then here's what happens. Companies will say, well, you had 2 weeks of training. How come you don't know this and how come you don't know that? Be selfish with that training. Don't be in a rush to start your job and not pay attention to those corporate policies. Take your time to learn what these people are telling you. They wouldn't be telling you if they didn't have to tell you by law. Put it that way. If they're telling you, it's because they have to tell you. All right. So take your time and learn what's happening. Chapter 13 has a checklist. And I know we're like, oh my God, I don't want to do all that. I just want to make money. You did not spend all this money in school to learn a craft, to not care about the business side of business. You understand? You got to care about the business side. make sure you ask, these different questions that you may have now, right? HR hates it when you call them after they've already given you training and start asking questions that they've already given you training on, right? So where do I sign in? Do I need a badge? Especially if you're going to be off site, will I get equipment? Where do I get my IT? Who do I call if I have password problems? Try to get all those questions answered. Do not go to your site asking your coworkers about the benefits package. No, they may not even have the benefits package. They could be on their spouse's benefit package. They don't know what you're talking about. Don't go to your job site and start talking to your coworkers about that kind of stuff, right? Definitely don't go start talking about salary. That is y'all know that's a big no-no, right? And why is it a big no-no? Because remember, you just went through a negotiation process. Remember when you sign a contract, you go through a negotiation process. You do not know what the person to the left or right or you are making. You could be making more than them. And you go running your mouth and start talking about how much money you make, and you can cause a lot of problems on the job. Keep your pay to yourself. I know sometimes we try to get in there and we want to see if they cheated us and we got paid less, and you could have got paid more. That happened to me. I was the boss at a company, at a school, and they brought in a person, my subordinate, and they paid him more than me. And he made the mistake. He was complaining about his pay, and he told me how much he made. I mean, he wasn't just me, he said it in front of people. And I was like, what? I was 38 hot. And they tried to say, oh, it's because he has this technical such and such degree. And I was like, okay, okay, I feel you. I see where you're going with that. Of course, but see, and this is where it gets tricky, right? And I'll say this was years ago. I was at this school, this college, and I was a director. And this person, I was over the business department, the IT department, the criminal justice department, right? Now, even though I was over IT, I didn't have an IT degree. I didn't have an IT degree. I had a business degree, but um I had IT experience, right? Y'all know how the IT field, is so crazy. I mean, you can have skill set and I have a degree. But this person had the degree, right? And he earned it, right? Um, but he didn't have experience. Isn't that interesting, right? So you may ask the question, which one gets paid? Should it be the person with experience or the person with the degree? What do y'all think? There's no right or wrong. You're not gonna hurt my feelings. You don't have to say it, but that's a true dilemma, right? And so the guy came in, and so guess what? You know what I had to do, right? I had to train him. That's a hard thing, right? So now you're training someone that had the degree. I mean, I had other degrees. I didn't have that degree. Um, to do a job that they can't do, but they got paid to do because they had the degree. Anybody ever been in a situation like that before? Maybe not exactly, but maybe somebody passed you over because they got the degree, you didn't have the degree, but they had experience. That's real life, right? That's real life, right? So I say get both. I say get both. I had to go back to school. I got the degree now. I got a few tech degrees now, but I went back and I was in school to get the tech degree anyway. But I made sure I had both because I'm like, this will never happen to me again. So there's that. But so that's why you don't talk about, you never know what somebody else is making and why they're making it. So don't ever bring that up. You could be the person that's making the most. Um, Again, ask as much as you can why you are there. We already talked about promoting yourself, right? Now, some people argue, when do I change my LinkedIn accounts and say I have a job? Y'all know I have a story for everything. Now I'm gonna tell you, listen, I don't announce it right away. I personally don't. Can you announce it right away? I think you will learn as you go. When's the best time to announce it? Once you get into your career and you start to fill out, oh, okay, is this a company that I need to check it out? Let me be here for a couple weeks before I say if I'm going to stay here. Y'all remember now, y'all know the 90-day rule, right? The 90-day rule says, and this is still applicable for most places, I can let you go with or without cause. The reason why they have the 90-day rule is because not all states have the same rules for employment, right? So some states, the second you hire somebody, you cannot just fire them in some states. But there is the 90-day rule exception, right? So in other states where it's at will, like Florida, they say you can pretty much let somebody go as long as you don't discriminate. There's still a 90-day rule, right? And even though you still can let people go regardless. But the 90-day rule goes both ways. What is the 90-day rule? The 90-day rule says basically you're on probation to make sure you're the right fit, and they make it seem like it's one way. But guess what? That works two ways. You're in a profession now. The 90-day rule but works both ways. You can be at a company for 90 days and just quit and never have to mention that job. I mean, you don't have to mention jobs on your resume if you don't want to anyway, but you don't have to mention that job. It is as if you never worked at that job for the first 90 days. It doesn't count. So that's why I waited out before I put anything on my LinkedIn account, saying I work at ABC company. If I haven't been there, at least, I say at least give it 30 days, guys. Um, there have been people I've known, and I think I've done it maybe once, that will start a job, realize it's not the good fit, and then they go to the next job within the 90 days. Or think about it. Let's say you're fortunate enough to get two job offers. Anybody ever got two job offers before? Maybe you took one job offer. It wasn't exactly the one you wanted, but they came first. And then the other one comes around, maybe they were on vacation or they hadn't made a decision yet. And it was like, oh no, we really wanted you. And maybe it paid more. Maybe it was closer to your house. What are you going to do? Just sit there at the other job and say, oh, well, I already took this one. Within the first 90 days, it doesn't count. I mean, y'all know what I mean. When I say it doesn't count, it's not a blemish on your employment history if you leave a company within 90 days, because everybody knows, okay, you're trying to see if it's a good fit. It's like trying on shoes. So when do you update your network? Hey, do you? But I would say, at least make sure it's somewhere that you want to stay, because once you start promoting that you work at a company, there you'll see people start to try to connect with you because you're working with that company, right? You don't want to bring attention to yourself on your platforms, and then oh, I left this job, I don't work there anymore, and all that kind of stuff. So make sure it's a company that you want to promote, because essentially you are promoting a company. Even though you're promoting yourself, you're also promoting that company, because everybody's looking to see where you work. Now, as a professional, you will get what's called a performance evaluation. Anybody ever had one? These things, they're not as strong as they used to be, because back in the day, oh my goodness, every company wanted to see your performance evaluation. They've kind of gotten away from this, I feel like, or maybe I'm just in a different, I don't know. I haven't seen people, care so much about this as much, because, people come and go at jobs a lot more often than, back in my day when I was in my 20s and 30s. Performance evaluations were huge. I mean, they're still really big in government type jobs, large corporations, they're still really big. A really good performance evaluation process will start out right at the beginning, because a company will sit you down within the first 60 days and say, okay, here are our company objectives. One of the things that you get in that training sessions is most times you'll meet the CEO, and the CEO will give you his or her spiel about the company and what makes it great and how you're going to help them with that. So once you get that, then your supervisor is supposed to sit down with you and say, okay, you've heard the CEO give the song and dance about what we're trying to do at this company, how we're trying to grow. Here are the goals for the year, and here's what we expect you to do. So whether it's, hey, make sure you get 100% satisfaction when you're dealing with customers. Every 90 days we're going to see anything below a 90. We're going to, you don't want anything below a 90. That could be part of the objectives that you have. Maybe they're trying to maintain all of their customers and not lose more than 10% of their customers. So how that translates for you is getting a 90% satisfaction rate. If you're on a project, maybe they say, okay, we need to have a 95% zero deficiency rate, meaning we can't go back and have to do things more than 5% of our redos, whether you're doing, electrical, welding, whatever. We can't have large errors, because obviously if you have to go back and fix something, then you're not doing something else. So, however it translates down to you in terms of what the goals and objectives are for the year, your supervisor should be letting you know that. And they should let you know how you're going to be evaluated at the end of the year. We're going to evaluate you based on customer service. We're going to evaluate you based on how many errors. We're going to evaluate you based on whether you were able to complete the project. Like, a really good company tells you on the front end how they're going to evaluate you, such that towards the end of the year, and if they're a really, really sophisticated company, they'll have a midpoint evaluation where they'll check in with you and say, this is how you're doing, right? So just be mindful. And if you go to work for a larger company, you're definitely probably going to get some type of performance evaluation. Smaller companies, y'all know, a lot of times they don't even have time to do that kind of stuff, but you'll know once you get there. Of course, you need to worry about etiquette. We keep talking about etiquette as part of professionalism. I know it sounds like, okay, Miss Taylor, geez, what's up with all this etiquette class? But etiquette is so important in a professional environment, guys. Remember, people expect you to be professional. Part of being a professional is understanding etiquette. There's business etiquette, there's workplace etiquette, how people expect you to be, right? I think we all can agree that if you go and work for, let's say you're working, even if I'm in electrical, me working for Duke Energy, versus me working for the airport versus me working for a government office. There's going to be different levels of expectation, right? Based upon the environment that you're there. So you really need to get there and look around and make sure you understand what the environment is. Nothing is worse than, you getting there, and y'all all know those people that stand out because they always do something different. And in their mind, they tell themselves, oh, I'm just being myself. I'm not going to let nobody tell me what to do. You know how that reads? That does that does not read the way you think it reads. It reads as a lack of self-awareness. That's how it reads. You don't know what you don't know, but others do. It's not about conformity. It is about, when you go somewhere, there's a corporate culture, right? It's kind of like going to church with a mini skirt on, like read the room, right? And if you don't know how to have self-awareness, it can affect you at an environment. Remember, these people are running the business. It's not a playground, and there are certain expectations, and they have those expectations for a reason. So my friends, when you go to somewhere, please read the room. Read the room. And when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Y'all heard, y'all too young for that phrase. Know where you are. You know, because that culture comes from somewhere. A lot of times that culture comes from the CEO. What do you mean by culture, Miss Taylor? That means that you ever go to a job and one job seems a little stuffy than the other. Anybody ever been in that environment before? You be like, ooh, over here is this way, over here is that way. That's called a culture, because that CEO, typically is top down, has decided what that culture is going to be, right? And then we also talk about a climate. The climate can be tense, it can be relaxed. It can be relaxed but hardworking. It can be tense, but everybody just, not really doing a lot of work. So climate and culture is two different things. things, but you need to understand what the culture is. Not because you still get to choose, right? You get to say, okay, is this the right fit for me? If you go somewhere and it's not the right culture for you, you don't like the climate, maybe the climate is a bit, a bit too intense. The culture is everybody's competing with each other, and that's how the CEO does it. He likes to create, or she likes to create this culture of competition, right? And then that's not what you like, that's not where you want to be. My friends, when you start your career, you have to be prudent about where you land, right? Because it's going to affect your career. So if something doesn't work for you, like I said before, maybe you took this job because it seemed like the right place, but then you get there, it's not the right climate for you, but some that other company wanted you. It's totally fine. It's totally fine because this is your business. You are your business. And another thing, lastly, that they'll talk a lot about is safety. All of y'all are in fields where safety, you get ready for it. Just every 3 months, just get ready for your workplace safety. You're going to have a lot of training, ocean training, all kinds of what to do's, what not to do's. Those companies do not want to have to pay money because you hurt yourself. So get ready for that. And there's probably going to be a lot of inspections all over the place. All of y'all are going to be in environments where you have to do that. So be ready for that. All right, enough about that. Here's your conference question for tonight. I just want to know, what is your biggest first day anxiety now that Miss Taylor's giving you something to be anxious about? What is your biggest first day anxiety? Just tell me what that is. My friends, let me say it again for the people in the back. When does class end? Somebody tell me. When does class end? We got to say it for the people in the back. When does class end? Somebody tell me. I'm clutching my pearls.
Thursday,
At what time?
10 p.m.
Y'all heard what she said, right? Thursday at 10 p.m. for the people in the back. Jennifer, somebody's going to ask us that tomorrow. But that's all right. We're going to tell them. That means, and all assignments are due when? All assignments are due when? So please, somebody tell them for the people in the back. When are assignments due?
Wednesday.
Wednesday at midnight. Because you get that extra 11:59. Let me be specific. 11:59. Yes. The mid the final is open, but you have until Thursday at 9:59 to turn it in. Yes? All right, my friends. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Hasta luego. All right. Talk to you later. Bye bye.